Mr. Frost. We are ready for human resources.
All right. Good morning. I think it's still morning. Yes. Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair. I'm here to present the critical needs for the Human Resources Department. So being a support department, I think it's very important for me to make requests that I think are value added. So the requests I make are tied to the strategic plan. So what does HR do to support the strategic plan? Well, we develop strategies at HR to assess and improve the quality of public services through equipping and engaging employees. We analyze attrition rates within the county and implement strategies to improve employee recruitment and retention. We implement action plans to address critical issues identified by employees in employee surveys and engage in follow-up surveys to assess progress. And the continuation of the countywide strategy to address compensation inequities in response to the recent compensation study. And for Objective 3, we implement external and internal communication strategies. In summary, we in HR do what we do so employees can do what they do. I like to think that we're a very strong backbone to the organization, and we are strategic partners relentlessly trying to improve the employee experience throughout the employee's life cycle. So the budgetary highlights, this essentially is why I'm asking for the things I'm asking for. We already spoke today about the current job climate and that it's created a large increase in requests to HR for recruitment and retention assistance and challenges in navigating the staffing necessary to fulfill those needs. We're posting more jobs, we're receiving more applications, and we have to have the support in the background to be able to do that. Next, developing strategic initiatives to understand employee engagement and satisfaction, which hopefully should result in an increase in retention and morale. And lastly, training and development for all county staff request is increasing from the departments. So the actual critical needs, the first thing I'm asking for is about $33,000 for live class instructors. During COVID, like most employers, of course, training and development was reduced, and now we would like to refocus on our employee development. A big part of that, I believe, is in-person training. There are some training courses that just don't lend themselves to a recorded virtual atmosphere, such as leadership training. And there are trainings that do lend themselves to that, which I'll get into on the next slide. So I value being able to develop employees, and this request is right in line with that. And of course, by further developing our employees, the expected outcome is we'll foster a more dynamic and interactive learning environment, and we'll measure the number of live classes, number of participants, and quality measures from post-class surveys. Developing employees should also result in them providing better services to our residents. Next is recruiter seats. I know this is unusual terminology, but it is the terminology from LinkedIn. LinkedIn has positioned themselves as essentially the go-to for professional job recruitments. So what is happening right now is I only have one recruiter seat to share amongst several recruiters. So when we find people that we want to contact, what we would call sourcing, we want to reach out to them, we want to tell them about an upcoming job or an open job. there's only one person who can do that. So that's created quite a work burden on one person. And so this would allow us to distribute that work amongst my recruiters and thus also improve the amount of people we can reach out to and talk to about coming and joining wonderful El Paso County. So for reference on the importance of just kind of recruitment in general, by the end of the year, we're anticipating having about 900 job postings and 23,000 applications. Next, I am also requesting training video library expansion, $30,000. So in contrast to what I said on the last slide, there are training classes that do lend themselves to virtual recorded environments. We don't have as robust of a library as we would like. We use a training system, and it has come with some default training classes, and those are free, and as the saying goes, you get what you pay for. So we would like to, again, better equip our employees by getting them better training and development. The expected outcome is improvement in the development and retention of quality employees. This can be measured in performance evaluation scores, resident satisfaction, and employee retention rates.
Mr. Frost, can you tell us what the current utilization rate is on this? And are these, like the compulsory versus the, the required versus the optional, and how highly this is being used, and whether you have any metrics on that?
Here, I do not have metrics. Just off the cuff, I know that our mandatory trainings, they get pretty close to 100%. Those virtual ones, candidly, because the system continues to email you until you do take your mandatory classes. So the mandatory classes is probably where we're going to concentrate on the video library expansion to make sure that the ones people are attending are of good quality and are actually training and developing the employees.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the funding request for 2024, of course, that bumps my budget up a little. So the live class instructors, 33,240. The additional recruiter seats, 29,700. And the training video library expansion at 30,000. I truly believe these have an ROI to them. I believe that for the two training parts, again, the more we train and develop our employees, the higher quality service they provide to residents, as well as having a positive impact on our retention. And for the additional recruiter seats, of course, being able to get higher quality candidates in the door for us has an immeasurable impact. Naturally, we want the best employees we can get, and sometimes, or most of the time, we have to go find those people. They might not necessarily be looking. So again, I think my requests do pay for themselves. And there is a compensation request. I know that Nikki addressed this in her presentation as well. But to reaffirm this, we want to invest in our human capital, our employees. So management is recommending 4.5% total compensation on average adjustment. 2.5% of that would be, again, our recommendation going to the COLA increase, and a 2% allocation of personnel budgets for pay for performance. So that 2% would be directly tied to employees' evaluation scores to make a bona fide pay for performance system. This investment will allow the county to compensate near the rate of inflation, as CPI, again, for that Denver market, is currently projected to be approximately 4.7% for 2023. Speaking a little of the impact of compensation, we gave a very fair increase last year, and I'm happy to say that I believe we have very much impacted our retention. So in 2022, the departures by the end of August were 488. This includes any kind of departure, whether it's retirement, resigning, or termination. For 2023, that number is 325, which is 163 fewer positions, or about a 33% difference. So not only compensation, I think compensation is the biggest one. That's what we hear from employees, but all the efforts that we're making as a county, definitely through County Administrator Brett Waters and his support of employees, we're retaining employees better than what we used to. So with that, I'll ask if there are questions.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if we have a competition here between Commissioner Geithner and I, and who can raise our hand first to ask a question, but first of all, again, always a thank you for what you're doing. This is really awesome. And I know we say it, at budget hearings, but I think I certainly am speaking for myself, but I think it might be a common statement from all the commissioners. The most important asset we have in El Paso County is the people that we've got. They're the ones that deliver the goods, the services. They are essential, and we have such an amazing team, and I'm really, really proud of them. So I am really glad that the staff here is recommending to the board, this cost of living increase, and that you're talking about the nuances about, where that will go. I am thrilled to hear about the reduction in people transitioning out of the county for different and various reasons. And I do recall at one point I had tried to figure out what would be considered the norm for a public agency versus maybe a private agency. And I'm not sure I could really find a consensus on the internet, but it sounded to me like turnover on the private side is actually well above 10% annually. I thought that was interesting. And that public agency turnover is generally lower. And maybe that was about 10 or 9% seemed to be kind of the number that I settled on, maybe 9%. And when you say we've got about 300 so far this year, that's about 10% right now, which means we'll be a little over 10% by the end of the year. So we might still, I'd be interested in your assessment. Are we still a little bit over what a public agency typically would find, even though we have made improvements, or are we kind of more into the norm?
That's a great question, Commissioner. Thank you. You're right in that the numbers depend on who you're getting your information from. I do see in the private sector we're looking at over 20% attrition. For small governmental agencies, we're seeing about 18%. I always caution of comparing ourselves to other entities because they might not have the same departments, they might not be the same size, and it can become an apples and oranges comparison. I like to compare ourselves to ourselves, and if we're making improvements over the year. But I would say we're falling right in line with, from the information I've received and researched, we're right in line with what the attrition rate should be for a small government agency.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so to your point, maybe the best measure is how did we compare in previous years? Are we getting better? That's a good way to calculate it. Thank you.
Getting better.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. I appreciate all your thoughtful answers there. But I did have one, when we're looking at that number, do you have a ballpark? I won't hold you to the exact number here, but when we talk about the cost of turnover, do you have a ballpark in what you think the savings are for the retention that we are now seeing in comparison to previously?
I would have to get all the salaries of potential employees we've saved, but the Society for Human Resource Management and other organizations like that would say for a professional position, you could be saving the employee salary. So potentially if you lose we'll just say $70,000 employee, it could cost you $70,000 to fill that position in various cost and bringing that person up to speed, because generally employees take about 6 months before they're comfortable in their roles. So that's a lot of lost, when we lose a person, that's a lot of lost productivity, a lot of lost knowledge. There's a recruitment cost to that. There's probably a good 20 odd things that directly and indirectly cause cost when someone leaves. So when we're talking a significant number, like what did I say, 160 something. I mean, when we think about if that's the salary or even half of the salary that we've saved in direct and indirect cost, that's quite a meaningful lump sum.
Thank you. I think, we talk a lot about how important retention is and what the return on investment is, both monetarily, but also in quality service to our residents. And I just really appreciate you trying to get down to some quantifying of that for the public as we talk about how important that is, and really share with them transparently how important this is. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments at this time? Excellent. Thank you for the leadership and the systemization and analysis of what you've done with the department in the last just over a year since you've been here. And I'm grateful to have real data to make decisions off of. So appreciate that. Once again,